What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. My name is Johnny, and today we are actually going to be visiting the land of South Korea. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. South Korea is on deck today. We're going to be checking out Geography Now's video about South Korea. The host is actually South Korean, so this will be pretty interesting. Now, I've done a video on, I believe, the Philippines, the Geography Now video on the Philippines, which is a fantastic video. All their videos are fantastic. But before we get started, I have a link to the original video down below. I have a link to Geography Now's channel down below. Make sure you give them a subscription. Make sure you give them a view, a thumbs up, comment, all that good stuff. And while you're at it, I'd appreciate it if you could subscribe with me too. It would be much appreciated from the bottom of my heart. I thank you in advance. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this started. Geography Now, South Korea. Let's see what's going on in SK. Here we go.
여러분 안녕하십니까? 오늘 특별한 손님을 모시고 왔습니다. 제 어머니입니다. Come on in, mom. 엄마, 자기소개 부탁합니다.
안녕하세요. 저는 폴 엄마입니다.
That's it? We have reached the last and final country of my own personal heritage, so I figured why not go out with a bang and bring my own mom on the show. You're gonna love
Nice.
her, and if you don't, I'll basically kill you.
It's
Nice.
time to learn geography.
No! For the record, yes, my mom speaks English, and whenever she comes on screen, we'll most likely speak Konglish with each other since my
Konglish.
skill level
I
is
love
equivalent
it.
to a 5-year-old.
King
that's not
Konglish.
electrocuted in the brain. Nonetheless, that's okay. This episode will be a piece of chapsak. Let's begin. Now, if you haven't already seen the North Korea episode, I suggest you do because it covers some of the context you'll need for this episode.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
First of all, South Korea makes up the bottom half of the Korean peninsula in East Asia, located between the Yellow Sea, the Gyeonggi Bay, the Jeju Strait, and the Korea Strait off Japan's Tsushima Island. And this thing, which, be careful what you call it, the Chinese and Koreans call it the East Sea, whereas the Japanese and others might call it the Sea of Japan. The country is divided into 8 provinces, 6 metropolitan cities.
Does that cause, like,
act as their own
issues?
entities, a special self-governing province, Jeju-do Island, and the capital Seoul, that has the title of Special City, acting
Special
as its own
city.
entity as
I
well.
love
Then
it.
you have this weird thing, Sejong, a special
Turn up a little
autonomous
bit.
city. Back in 2007, the government was like, crap, we have too many people here in Seoul.
Yeah, half the country lives here. We need to move some people out.
That's actually a good idea, but how do we make them move?
Why don't we move the government buildings and make a second capital? We could also incentivize
What?
people to move in. Kind of work with Brazil.
Great! But you first. So now, technically, South Korea has 2 capitals. Psh, back in my day, there were only 8 provinces, with Jeju-do and Seoul was the capital. 한국 왜 이렇게 복잡하게 하는 거지? South Korea owns and administers over 3,500 islands off its coast, the largest one being Jeju-do, which is
3,500
kinda like the
islands?
Hawaii of Korea. You know what's really strange? If South Korea was an island, it would look eerily similar to the shape of Ireland. Anyway, as we mentioned in the North Korea
the
episode,
fuck?
South Korea has a border with their brothers up north at the DMZ, or
yep, yep.
demilitarized zone, patrolled by over 2 million people at any given moment. In addition, there are 4 known tunnels that have been built underneath the border, including what South Korea calls the third tunnel of aggression. Basically, in 1978, it went
Wait,
down
what?
like this. Oh, what the? Why is there a tunnel under my? Oh no! Hey, UN! North Korea built this as an act of aggression.
No, it's a coal mine.
There's no coal here. It's all granite and igneous rock. And what about those other 3 tunnels we discovered?
Clearly, we were looking for coal in other places because it wasn't here.
Today, it's a tourist spot.
Wait, why was that not like, why did that not end up become like, if they dug tunnels, why would that not become a full-on act of war, right? Why would they not break out in war? I guess, given the circumstances, you probably wouldn't want that to happen. But I mean, that seems really crazy, right? 4 tunnels? Yo, Jesus.
Guarded by South Korean
Yikes.
troops. There are
Wow,
suspected
big
to be
yikes.
possibly around 20 more tunnels, but info on that is classified.
20 more
Otherwise, South
tunnels?
Korea has 11 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, the Baekje Mounds, these Dolmen Sites, Changdeokgung Palace, Gyeongju Historic Village,
Oh, it's
Dainsa
gorgeous.
Temple, Andonghwahae Maul, Hwasong Fortress, the Jongmyo Shrine, Namansansong Fortress City, the Royal Tombs of the Joseon Dynasty.
Holy crap. Yo, how old is this? Of the Joseon Dynasty? Wow, I need to figure out when that was. If anybody knows when the Joseon Dynasty was, drop a comment down below.
And Bulguksa Temple. Otherwise, some other notable spots of interest might include places like Everland, Korea's largest theme park, and Lotte
cool.
World, the world's largest indoor theme park, Gyeongbokgung Palace, Seoul Tower, the War Memorial, Lotte Tower, the tallest building in the peninsula,
Damn.
and 5th in the world.
Oh, Lotte. That's I saw them do like an ad, right? They did a special ad where like BTS made a song for them, right? Is that the same company, Lotte? Right? Lotte?
The National
Said
Museum,
Lotte, so I'm gonna
Dongdaemun
guess it's right.
Market, Busan's Fish Market, Daegu's Arboretum, the Thermal Springs of Wonju. Mom, what's your
Cool.
favorite place to visit in Korea?
Maybe you can go to the Gangwon-do. Interesting place.
Damn.
See that.
And the list goes on and on. Just like Japan, there are too many quirky, interesting, colorful sites to list. Alas,
Quirks and
let's move
features.
on. If you go to
Fortune
South Korea,
features.
you'll notice that the countryside is actually very picturesque if you can get all the tacky apartment buildings out of the way from your view. First of all, cradled away in the
Looks
docile
brutalist.
Amurian plate, Japan and China take up most of the heavy earthquakes, tsunamis, and typhoons, so they don't really experience anything too crazy in terms of natural catastrophe. Around 80% of the country is mountainous. They share the same Taebaek mountain chain with North Korea. The longest river is the Nakdong that flows all the way from the mountain chain into the East Sea along Busan. They don't really have a lot of big lakes, the largest one being Chungju, artificially created
That's a
by
lake?
a dam. Since North Korea took Mount
Wow.
Pektu, South Korea's highest point switched to Mount Hallasan, a shield volcano located on Jeju Island.
Whoa,
It last erupted
that
over
whole
1,000
thing
years
is,
ago.
is
This
a
makes Jeju
freaking
Island
volcano.
a unique place from the rest of Korea, with famous lava tube caves, Sunrise Peak, and the Dragon Head Coast. In Boryong, you have the famous mud flats that holds a festival every year that draws in over 2 million visitors.
Cool.
Osong is famous for their tea fields. The problem is that summers are so incredibly humid and filled with mosquitoes. Mom, do you remember when I
Really?
was a kid, they made me camp in the Yeongdong pine fields, and it was like, oh my god, so terrible. They made me brush my teeth and like bathe in the river, and the bathrooms were just holes in the ground.
Yes, I remember. I've never been there, but I heard about
But he says she sent his ass over there.
And every year between winter and spring, they experience Hwangsa, the yellow dust season, in which dust particles from the Gobi Desert are swept up by fast winds
Wow.
and cover all of East China and the Koreas, sometimes even as far as Japan and parts of Russia. This is the reason why you see so many Asians wearing those surgical masks like every year. Now, in the North Korea episode,
I thought, wait, hold on. I thought that was a health thing. I thought people from Asian descent, or yeah, I guess that's a proper term. A lot of people from Asian descent that live in Asian countries wore that because they were protecting themselves, or they were trying to protect others from potential illness, right? Is it really because of the dust, or maybe potentially air quality too? I guess in like Tokyo and stuff. Isn't Tokyo's air quality pretty bad? Oh no, I think Tokyo's good. I think it was maybe a city in China. I think Beijing, right? I don't know. I can't remember, but I remember hearing something about like it's not about. I don't know. I can't remember. Sorry. Let's just continue. Forget I said anything.
discussed a list of notable Korean dishes. I'm not going to do it again. But as you know, kimchi is the national
Kimchi.
dish.
Kimchi's
우리
so
어머니가 김치 만드는 법을 가르쳐 주겠습니다.
첫째, 소금물에 배추를 절이고, 둘째, 절여주는 동안에 양념을 만드는데 고춧가루, 마늘, 생강 갈은 것, 그리고 설탕, 젓갈이 필요합니다. 모든 것을 잘 믹스하여 놓은 동안에 절여진 배추를 꺼내서 깨끗하게 씻고 먹기 좋은 사이즈로 잘라서 준비해 놓은 양념으로 버무려서 싱싱한 거 먹고 싶을 때
I want some
먹고 아니면
kimchi.
2-3일 동안 두었다가 약간 익었을 때 먹으면 맛있습니다.
Now keep in mind there are hundreds of
I want kimchi. So have y'all ever been to a Korean barbecue place? Korean barbecue? And I don't know if it's like this everywhere, but every Korean KBBQ place that I've been to, like they give you an assortment of meats that you can choose from. You can fry it up yourself, and they give you all the size that you want. Ah, it's so good.
different types of kimchi out there, but cabbage is the most popular one. 근데 깍두기 나야 제일 좋아하는 김치예요. Mom, what's your favorite kimchi?
나는 내가 어릴 때 해주던 할머니가 해주던 백김치가 제일
Oh, I didn't.
And
There's a
kimchi,
variety
yeah,
of kimchi. I didn't know you could get different kinds.
고춧가루 안 넣고 하얗게 똑같은 재료로 버무는데 고춧가루
Same thing without pepper. Yeah, the pepper's what makes it
Yeah,
pop.
that's a good one. Oh, and one dish that's kind of unique to South Korea as opposed to North Korea is that they kind of like to eat sannakji sometimes, live squirming octopus dipped in hot sauce. They also like to eat live spoon worms. Trust me though, that's kind of tame compared to some regions in China.
Good on that one. I don't think I could do it. I feel like the little suckers would get stuck to my throat and I'd choke to death. Imagine that. Imagine that final act of revenge for getting chopped up alive, right? You take the person that's eating you down with you. See you in hell.
Company-wise though, South Korea is all about the tech industry. Some of the largest
Stupid.
companies being LG, Lotte,
yes.
SK Group, Daewoo, Hanjin, Kia, and the crowning glories, Samsung and Hyundai. Today, South Korea is the fifth
Hyundai.
largest export in the world with the G20's largest budget surplus. It also has the world's 8th highest medium household income, highest in Asia, and it also has the highest credit rating out of any country in East Asia. As of 2015, they achieved the title of being the world's largest shipbuilder at
Wow.
over 2 million in gross tonnage, about 41% of the world's total. On top of that, in 2005, they became the world's first country to fully transition into high-speed internet. South Korea takes tech very seriously, and it exudes through the people's lives every day in a very interesting way. I mean, they even have their own robot prison guard. This means we are
What?
taking over too.
That's sick, dude. Hell yeah.
Koreans are kind of like sponges. When they see something they like, they watch it, they observe it, they imitate it, they memorize it, they recreate it, master it, and obsess over it. This can be both a good and bad thing depending on what we're talking about. First of all, South Korea has about 51 million people and has the highest percentage of adults 25 to 34 years old that have tertiary education degrees. The country is almost
What's
completely
tertiary?
homogenous at about 96% ethnically Korean, whereas the remaining 4% are made up of a number of foreigners, mostly being Chinese, Americans,
yeah,
and
expatriates
Vietnamese.
and
They also
stuff.
use the South Korean won
American
as their
expatriates.
currency. They use use the Type C plug outlet, and they drive on the right side of the road. Now, without even really having to explain that much, I'm pretty sure you're all aware of how incredibly different South Koreans are from their brothers up north. In fact, on average, South Koreans are about 2 inches or 5 centimeters taller than the North Koreans
Wow.
due to their access to healthier and more diverse food options. South Korea, no surprise, speaks Korean, which is not only unique
What?
because there aren't
Really?
really any languages related to
News
it.
to
Some
me.
might say Japanese is like a way distant cousin, but also because of the writing system. Back in the 1400s, Sejong the Great was like, dude, I'm sick of the Chinese characters. It's too hard. Can we just make new ones? So they did. Today, Hangul, or as the North Koreans call
Hangul.
it, Hangul, is a phonetic alphabet that is incredibly easy to learn. It
I've
literally
heard
only takes
that.
like an hour for anybody to learn it.
I have heard
mean,
that.
This letter makes a n sound, and this makes an ah sound, and so on. The strange thing, though, is that Hangul is the only writing system in the world that uses syllable clusters. So in order to write, you kind of have to smash either 2 or 3 letters into a box format that goes either 2 across and 1 at the bottom, or 3 all the way down.
Interesting.
So for example, the word for foot is bal. So you'd have to take the B sound next to the ah sound and the sound, making
Oh,
bal.
cool.
And that's it. That's like 90% of the writing. Box smashing. The
What?
problem, though, is
Oh,
that
that's awesome.
speaking Korean is a nightmare. The grammar is all backwards. There's like subject indicators and possessive prefixes. There's 높은 말, 동갑말, 낮은 말. 엄마, 나의 한국어 수준 어때요? 어떻게 생각합니까?
뭐 이제 4살 5살 대기 수준이지.
Now, I already explained the early history of the Korean Peninsula in the North Korea episode, so check it out if you want a summary. Basically, after the Korean War, the two Koreas diverged very drastically. Essentially, unlike their brothers up north, South Korea became a democratic presidential republic, adopting a
shit.
capitalistic model for their
Oh,
economy, free market enterprise, encouraging a competitive private sector. This did wonders for them. Today, they are classified as one of the 4 Asian tigers, along with Hong Kong, Singapore, and Taiwan, meaning
wow.
that they have grown at an economic rate over 10% annually over the past 30 years.
Wow.
Remember the Germany episode we talked about the Wirtschaftswunder? Yeah, they basically did the same thing. After war times, they started working really hard. Just Google Miracle on the Han River. After the war, most of the Americans left, but they still kept some army bases with soldiers in places like Gyeonggi-do, where my dad was born, and Daegu, where my mom was born. Anyway, South Korea is a place where the future is embraced, but the past is never let go of. Traditional dances like the colorful Choyeongmu and Talchum mask dances. If you're lucky to witness it, the
sweet.
long ribbon-spinning Pungmul dance can be seen in certain areas. Jultagi tightrope performers.
Holy
and
shit.
Namsadang acrobatics where people launch high from seesaws. Also, the amazing traditional raspy-voiced pansori singing has never gone out of style. Usually
Pansori
it's accompanied
singing.
by these drums. Buk, right, Mom? Buk. And what is this one called?
장구.
Janggu.
Jangu.
Taekwondo and Hapkido are the 2 national martial arts. No surprise, South Korea ranks #1 in the Olympics. Most Koreans at some point
Oh,
will
nice.
probably
Hell
learn
yeah.
at least a little bit of Taekwondo. I took it as a kid. And Mom, you took it too, right? You took Taekwondo when you were younger?
Yeah, when I was in high school.
You were like the only girl in your class,
Oh,
right?
push-ups
How
on
many
the
boys
fist?
were in your class?
Oh, 50, 60.
And what belt
Wow.
did you get up to?
Black.
Black belt. So yeah,
Oh,
basically my
wow.
mom can kill your mom.
Cute.
Speaking of martial arts, South Korea is a conscription country with all men required to serve in the military anywhere
have heard
between
that.
the ages of 18 to 35 for about 2 years. Women are allowed to volunteer too if they wish. Most Koreans still get married in the Jeontung Yeshik traditional hanbok style wedding. And there's also a part where like the bride's
So
family
colorful.
and friends have to like beat the husband's feet for some reason. Mom, why do they do that? Why do they like beat the man's feet during the wedding?
Maybe punishing him to take away from their daughter.
So they're like punishing him like, oh,
Oh.
it's payback for all the pain you will give me.
I don't know.
On side note, people usually try to avoid marrying someone with the same last name as them in South Korea. The
Really?
problem is that only 3 last names make up about half of the entire population.
Wow.
Kim, Lee, and Park. Today, numbers are a little
Oh,
hard
wow.
to estimate, but many will say that about 1/3 of the country identifies as Christian, mostly Protestant branches, along with a sizable Buddhist community at maybe 20%, whereas the rest claim to vaguely follow ancient traditional Korean-style Confucianism, the indigenous shamanism, or no affiliation at all. In fact, after the US,
Interesting.
South Korea sends more Christian missionaries abroad than any other country in the world. Otherwise, tradition aside, Koreans have glided ever so stealthily into the modern world. Today, South Korea has a huge esports industry, and gamers are
Oh, yeah.
celebrities. They can make millions. Of course, this can also lead to some problems, as some people have been known to have died by playing non-stop or actually killing people, or getting arrested for neglecting their
Actually
children
killing
in favor of
people?
playing video games. Coincidentally, one where you have to raise an online virtual baby.
Let their
I'm not
baby
even
starve
joking,
to
that's a
death?
True story. Look it up. Like the
Holy
Japanese, Koreans
crap.
love their norebangs, mojoktangs, and jjimjilbangs. However, the difference is that Koreans
How about the mukbang? Anybody?
usually don't cover themselves with towels. They just go.
How about the gongbang? Anybody about the gongbang? Anybody? Okay. Oh shit. Oh, okay.
I like your style. South Koreans also have disputably the highest percentage of plastic surgeries performed per
Really?
capita in the world at around 20 per thousand residents. The most popular one, mostly for women, being the double eyelid surgery, in which they add a fold to their eyelids as it's seen as more attractive. Parents even usually give their daughters the surgery
That
as
seems
a graduation
unnecessary.
gift. 엄마, 왜
That seems,
한국 여인들은
what if they here's my question is what if they fuck that surgery out that you don't have eyelids? Like, why would you even do that? That's so stupid. Like, you can't. I mean, I guess they could maybe like get another eyelid off another like a cadaver, right? But it seems so unnecessary. Like, what the hell would you do? That's
수술을 하는 것을
yikes.
예쁘다고
Like the people who get tattoos in their eyes.
No, I mean like kind of, but like sometimes like 내 생각은 수술한 여자 애기는 like when they come out they're gonna have like the 웨커풀, so it's like 수술 또 계속 해야 돼요 for like every generation.
People thinking about the beauty is getting changed.
Oh, yeah, but you can't change your genetics. In terms of controversies, South Koreans usually rank in the top 10 or even 5 countries with the highest suicide rates. Honor culture
Whoa,
is so
sad.
high that
What?
sometimes it affects people that don't feel like they meet societal expectations. Students have some of the highest stress levels in the world. Many go to hagwons after school, which is like another special
Hogwarts?
school. You can go to school after school for more school, and it ends at like 10 p.m.
Oh, hell
Students get
no.
like no sleep. And finally, unfortunately,
Hell
sometimes
no.
Koreans can be a little discriminatory against non-Koreans. As a homogenous nation with no real minority experience prior to the 20th century, you might find shockingly racist depictions of certain people groups that everyone is just kind of comfortable with.
Oh my
Sometimes
God.
they even put up signs saying no foreigners. They are
Wow.
just starting to kind of move on from that, but it's kind of still there. Anyway, there are so many things
Wow.
I wish I could talk more about, like how
Jesus.
Koreans use the Korean age system. They ask for your blood type because it's like a horse.
Wait, what?
I wish I could talk more about like how Koreans use the Korean
Current year minus birth year plus 1. Korean age. What the fuck? What the hell is that supposed to mean?
age system. They ask for your blood type because it's like a horoscope sign type of thing. The festivals of Chuseok and Seonnal. There's still like a surviving heir to the former emperor that exists today. Jeju Island has those diving women. Arirang is like the national song that everybody knows.
Arirang.
K-pop and K-dramas
Arirang.
have taken the world by storm. Usually K-dramas are accompanied with strange or horribly translated subtitles
Any
with the
K-popers?
worst commercial interruptions. 장미야, 당신은 사랑해. 왜 그렇게 하니? 오빠, 저는 이미 결혼해.
Jesus,
여러분,
what the
보브 세게트 커피 신발을 매우 편안합니다. 오, 지금 사! Otherwise, some famous Koreans throughout history might include people like 이순신, 김구, 유관순, 김대중, 반기문, 송창식,
I've heard of Ban Ki-moon.
조영남, 이승만, 박정희, 박지성, 박대환, 김유나. Actors like 박보검, 송중기, 김유정, 송혜교. Contemporary K-pop artists like H.O.T., B and
H.O.T.,
Boa,
who the
Girls'
hell is that?
Generation, Super Junior, AOA, Big Bang, 21, EXO. Tons of Americans with Korean heritage have also.
I've heard of like a fraction of those. I've heard of a fraction of those. Are those actual popular groups? Let me know down below. If those are actually popular groups. Maybe I should check them out.
Made the mark,
At
like
least the
John
ones that I
Cho,
haven't.
Randall Park, Kim Jong, Victor Barbado, and the list goes on and on. South Korea went from a war-torn Shanty Peninsula to a world-renowned power player, and it all had to do with their international outreach. This brings us to our last and final section, the... South Korea has always kind of had to prove itself
Friend
against
zone.
not only their neighbors, but to their own brothers up north to show that they could become something great apart from the political divergence factor. First of all, South Korea has great ties to the European Union as they make up the second largest export partner. Tourism has exploded since the 80s and 90s, and many Koreans study abroad in Europe for college semesters. Japan is like their best frenemy. Although the Koreans loved watching the Japanese being deposed after World War II, it wasn't long until they had their own problems in the Korean War. After the war, the Japanese befriended the South, and since then, relations have gotten much better. Koreans admit they can't get enough of Japanese anime, J-pop, and they do like the colorful culture and cuisine as they make one of the largest groups that visit annually. The Philippines was one of the first friends that they had even before the split. They even sent their expeditionary force to help against North Korean invasions during war times. For some weird reason, if you put a Filipino and a Korean together, they just kind of like immediately click and get each other. I mean, why do you think I hired Ken?
Aw, thanks, man.
Yeah, I guess you're all right, kind of.
Does that mean I get to co-star in the Philippines episode?
Yeah, if you can actually edit the video on time and not ruin it by slacking off, yes you can. In terms of their clothes,
Funny enough, because I actually happen to have watched and done a video on the Philippines episode. He did co-host the Philippines episode, so that's cool. I'm glad he came through on it.
most friends, Koreans would probably say China and kind of the US. Both countries host the largest numbers of Koreans in diaspora at around 2.5 million each, and both are the largest export partners. China kind of acts as like the mediator friend between them and North Korea, and they struggled alongside them during the Japanese Empire occupation years, in which both were required to speak Japanese and throw away their customs for like 3 decades. Like my mom's mom, my grandma. Mom, didn't you say like your mom spoke Japanese with your stepdad or something like that?
Yeah, they spoke with Japanese Japanese all the time. When I was little, they were educated with Japanese when Japanese
She's so cute.
occupied Korea.
But they
She's
never
so
spoke
cute.
Japanese to you?
Because I don't know Japanese, and then they were kept secret
They kept a secret for the secret
for the
language from you?
children. For children's,
Kind of like what you and Dad did with me in Korean. Like, you just
something like that.
they had a secret
That's
language.
very smart.
The U.S. played a major role during the Korean War and has a mutual defense treaty, meaning that any attack on South Korea would summon an immediate U.S. response.
Oh,
Of course,
wow.
the U.S. still has military bases located in the country, which of course brings in some anti-American protests since many are kind of weary of the U.S. presence. Nonetheless, Barack Obama is even quoted for saying that South Korea is one of the U.S.'s closest allies and greatest friends, as they have shared so much over the past 7 decades. When it comes to North Korea, though, they kind of see him as like the brother that stubbornly thinks he can still make a point that was lost like 70 years ago. They want to unify, but just one man kind of stands in the way. South Koreans have been trying to sneak propaganda into North Korea by hurling DVDs and USB sticks and gifts and other such
That
items
seems
via
dangerous.
balloon across the border. They figure the best way to reunify is to expose North Korea to how great the outside world is. In conclusion, although millennia of kingdoms and empires have passed, much of South Korea's global story starts after the Korean War. This little peninsula has been able to create a supernova of recognition for itself in such a short amount of time. Let's hope that the future brings even more light to the world. Thank you, Mom, for helping me in this episode.
Thank you for inviting me here. I really appreciate it.
Do you really? Do you really appreciate? Are you just saying that? Yeah. Stay tuned. Kyrgyzstan is coming up next.
Very cool. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. There it is. Geography now. That was cool. I wish they did a little bit more about the actual geography, but that's a very nice, quick introduction into actual like South Korean culture, demographics, I guess geography as well. That was cool. I like that. Geography now is always like they always have something interesting to say, right? There's never any like fluff piece. There's never like any filler. There's never any of that BS. They get right to the facts and they make you laugh. So I like them. You should check them out for sure. Definitely check out the links down below. Go give Geography Now your love. So with that said, that's it for me. I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. Make sure you hit subscribe. I got my social links down below at jonnyzetatv on Twitter and Instagram and Patreon. Thank you for everybody on Patreon. I appreciate your support from the bottom of my heart. If you want to join Patreon, I got a link down below. You can join for as little as $1 a month. And I think that's it, right? I'm pretty sure that's it. I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Have a good one. Bye.